and kind of fail sometimes to see society and adapt. I think that we're losing a lot of young reporters. There are a lot of people who, like, and I went to college with them, who like maybe got a job in journalism, and then not seeing a way forward, they've left. So they go to PR, they go to like just other kinds of jobs. Like the pipeline to, either becoming an investigative reporter or becoming an editor, or even just, having a nice way of life, I guess. It doesn't really seem like the industry is making that happen for especially younger journalists. And so I feel like we don't have as many like middle career stage reporters. It's either you've been in the business for 10, 15, 20 years, or you're very new. And so I think that there's a large knowledge drain as well, or gap. And I think that's going to become an issue. It's already an issue, but it's going to become a bigger one.
Yeah, I agree with everything that Rachel said. I think that it can be very hard to start off. You have this idea of like baby journalists, and I know Rachel had brought up in like a CGA meeting, like when do you stop considering yourself like a baby journalist? And for me, that's kind of where I am. I've been doing this since 2019, and I did some like online music blogging for a while and that was unpaid. And I think that brings up, two things. I think that there has to be room for the industry to realize that like unpaid internships are not sustainable. And that brings into, you have a lack of journalists of color. And a lot of that is that, like if you are a student, if you're I'm first generation Mexican American, you can't afford to take paid internships. So that limits the roles that you're able to take, that limits the experience you're able to have, because you're not able to spend 25 hours a week working for free. And I think that creates this gap that you see where you don't have first-gen journalists. My friend right now is currently doing her master's at a program in New York City, and a lot of her classmates are, pretty middle-class, upper-class people who are able to do the program with their family supporting them. And then you have the students that are like grinding their way, and a lot of them are first gen, a lot of them are from other countries. So that creates this gap of where you're missing those viewpoints and you're missing that voice from that whole group of people that can work and often want to tell the stories of like underrepresented minorities. And it is hard to try and stay in the business. I personally was considering a shift over to PR because quite frankly, like the salary sometimes isn't there, which is why you have a lot of journalists that move from state to state trying to find better opportunities. When we moved here from Georgia, that was something that, like I was considering. I ended up applying to the job I have now kind of on a whim. And I got it, and I'm so thankful I did, because journalism is a passion of mine, but you also deserve a livable wage, and hopefully the industry does start to see that, and does start to see that, representation and being able to give those opportunities to people that want to do this work, and just need a little bit more of a support from the industry as a whole, and we can start, having more journalists and stop having this being a career that people are like, oh, it's a dying industry. So.
Thank you, ladies. Anybody want to ask something education related? Yeah, go ahead, Noah. This is Noah Wetzel, okay, a senior. Go ahead, Noah.
All right, so this is for, which one of you, it doesn't matter to me which one of you best be suited to answer this, but what are the issues with education in Illinois?
It was a little hard to hear you. Do you mind maybe repeating the question, or Mike, do you mind saying it?
Sure. Noah's question was, what do you think are the major education issues
In Illinois.
that you're covering in Illinois in particular?
Clarice, do you want to take that one first?
Sure. So I think there is a, how to have kids socialize again, being able to address like the increase of depression and anxiety in younger generations. And I think that that's something that I'm seeing a lot. Schools here are really focusing on equity, which I think that that is great. You do have, where I am operating in Oak Park, you have a very wide range, very diverse group of people that live here. You have, neighborhoods that are extremely affluent, and then you have neighborhoods that are low income and need more assistance, but they all feed into one high school. So the schools here are very focused on equity and building programs and being able to kind of bridge the gap and, making sure that all students are having as much of a fair playing field as they can. And to me, that's something that I noticed as well. I've lived in a pretty middle class, working class suburb. So the majority of my peers, my high school was pretty well off. And then I have a lot of friends and a lot of people who went to a Chicago public school. And that, that equity is not there, that the programs, the financial assistance, everything that maybe more affluent high schools got, public schools in Chicago were just not having, and also a high teacher turnover rate. So right now I am seeing a big shift in equity and trying to get that level field a lot more stabilized.
Yeah, I would echo some of what Annalise said. I think that the test scores, both here and nationally, have become a big deal, or a big topic of the pandemic. Kids are learning at home, and are they learning? And now, through standardized testing, as terrible as that is, we are seeing that kids have really not learned as much over the last couple of years until we're dropping off in reading and math and science scores. So I would say that that's a big thing. A big push that I've seen is how to kind of shove the amount of learning that was missing during the pandemic into whole school years or semesters. And then you have a question of, is that actually good for students? Is this helping them? Should we reconsider the way that we're approaching education? So that's a debate that I've seen. I'd also say that the teacher and principal turnover rates have been really, really high, really dramatic. So I think that kind of mirrors what we're seeing in journalism. You have teachers who've been in the business for either a really long time or people who are really new, but you're missing that kind of mid-career teacher. And I think that that's really important for students, and also important for our education system. Those older teachers, I'm sure they hope to one day retire, and then what happens? And I would also say, there's a focus within the state legislature on, specifically Chicago, the city is getting an elected school board, so trying to make sure that parents and people who, parents, teachers, and others who deal more, with students, have a voice in, the decision making that goes on for their students, the kids, instead of it coming from, a third party entity kind of hovering up in the sky telling parents and teachers what they're supposed to be doing. And I do think that we're seeing that kind of throughout the state. The school board elections, various school board elections have been pretty contentious. In part because you're seeing more Republicans, it's kind of more farther right than just a center line conservative enter these races, and so that can shape our school boards. So I think that there's a renewed focus on that, and a renewed focus on, okay, kids have been out of school, or learning has been disrupted. Now I want to say in what that's going to look like.
Yeah, Brittany, Bethany, sorry.
Okay, how do the educational issues that's happening right now make you feel about our future?
Her question was, how do the educational issues occurring now make you feel about our future?
About the future of education?
The future of the students in education.
Yeah, the future of the students.
It does make me concerned, to be honest. I think that for me personally, I just became a parent